Business Conglomerate. He comes with 25 plus years of management consultant and has developed expertise in areas including infrastructure, utilities, and resources sectors. Tushar has worked with leading companies including Adani Enterprises Limited, IBM, and TCS. He's a B civil engineer from IIT Roorkee and did his MBA from Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. He has also written a book, which is the most interesting part. He's one of among all the panelists today. He's representing the author section as well. His book is Demystifying Digital Transformation: A Practitioner's Companion. So Tushar, apart from this, I think your experience learning while writing the book, and of course the interactions that you had with multiple organizations while doing that, is what we will look forward to hear from you. Right?
Thanks, Sudeep. Thanks for inviting.
Sure. So next we move to Anant Krishnamurthy, more of a commercial person, and that makes this particular event more interesting. So we have the HR people, and then we also have somebody who strongly works and very deeply works with the HR. At the same time, he holds the commercial portfolio as well. So Anant Krishnamurthy is commercial manager, parts division at TVS Motors Company, an Indian multinational company, of course. He comes with 10 years of experience in finance and corporate planning. Anant has previously worked with Arvind Fashions Limited, a leading lifestyle company in India. He completed his postgraduate degree in business administration and management from Ukla Anderson School of Management. Welcome to the webinar, Anant, and we look forward to learn and understand a lot from you.
Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you, fellow panelists. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so next I would like to thank, I think, all our participants once again. So here, this is for the participants who have been part of this journey. A very warm welcome to you all. We look forward to hear from each one of them as we put across the questions. And of course, we will open up the forum for each one of you to put up your questions as well. So once again, for the people who have joined late, I would like to reiterate the topic: digital transformation in workforce management. I think we have been hearing for quite some time about digital transformation. We have seen it been happening. We have been, a lot of us are being part of it, and we have learned from it as well. But however, we would like to know much in detail from the technological aspect and of course from the employee aspect as well. So this is my first question, and I would like to put this question to Mr. Tushar. This is a question to you. How is technology critical in HR, and how has it evolved over the years? This is what I would like to, we'll start with you, Mr. Tushar.
I think, Sudeep, a very interesting question, but also its answer will change every decade that you look into. Mm-hmm. So to begin with, I would say, role of technology is growing over the years, and it's going to become more and more essential partner for anybody who is in HR and who wants to deliver value to business. There are multiple ways when we look back and see various eras and phases. But what I look at it is the role that technology is playing in solving some of the HR problems. Okay. Initial days, it was about solving transactional efficiency. How do I manage my payroll better? Or how do I do my attendance management better? So first era was all around transactional efficiency. The second was emergence of process as a way of value add. So you have process focus and process efficiency coming. And when we talk process efficiency, we're talking things like ERP. Primarily the whole era of ERP, which later on started initially homegrown and then with cloud becoming more of a cloud-based ERP. So the second era is focused around the processes. Mm-hmm. Then you have a third era, which is the current era, I would say, is all around employee experiences, which is about how do I ensure that my employees get the customer level experiences, how do I understand how he's feeling, how do I empower him, how do I engage him. So whatever I need to do to bring employee centricity in my HR. Over and above that, there's an interesting one, which is at the horizon, although there are big claims being made, is about helping using technology to manage the future better. Mm-hmm. And when I say manage the future better, we are talking all about predictive analytics, all about seeing what's likely to happen, what's the best solution which will work in future, what is my best agile and responsive system to manage the future changes. All this. So if you look at it today, you need technology for transaction efficiency, you need it for process efficiency, use it for employee experience, and you use it for managing the future better. Any of the realms you can look at it. You can look at talent acquisition, right from process efficiency, transaction, candidate experience, choosing the right guy. You will have technology in all the value chain. Similarly, you talk about your investments in learning and development again, right from making sure what works, giving the choice for employee to have his own learning paths, making sure your investments deliver what you want, making sure that they are actually getting ready for tomorrow's future. So all dimensions today, we take domain by domain within HR. You will see today HR technology playing a critical role in all these 4 areas.
Sure.
And this trend is likely to continue. Why I'm saying this trend will continue and intensify is because of 2 reasons. First is about the trend around the workplace. So workforce, workplace, work, all these 3 Ws that we talk about are going to have a significant change going forward. And that speed is actually not only linear, but also disruptive. And the second, which is also important, is that especially when we talk in terms of digital, the technologies themselves are maturing very fast. So the intelligent part of it, the integrated part of it, the economics around technology, our experience and use cases about their usage, ability to engage vendors in a largely risk-driven but commercially viable methods. All this maturity will actually drive towards enhancing usage of technology in all the realms of our HR. So in short,
I think almost all the organizations in the EPC contracting companies, be it they are into transmission or in the cross-country pipeline. And I want to talk about Kalpataru Power, where I manage a business where more than 5,000 people are working. Many of them are welders, fitters, helpers, and spread across the country. To manage this large workforce is not easy. So we have inbuilt the biometric attendance for all these people. Those who are staying outskirts and in a few numbers, there we have provided them facial recognition through GPS. In our organization, we have also envisaged the need where how can we cut down our costs. So the surveys are being done by drone. The technology is used for making the daily progress report through the software. So the planning department knows exactly where are we progressing, how the crew is managed, the productivity. And also now the clients have started accepting this. That's a good part which is happening in India. So right from the employee life cycle to really giving the employee experiences. So I think the HR has, as I said, traveled a long journey, and it is still continuous, and it is going to be quite beautiful. Many of the mundane tasks have now been automized. So thanks to the technology which has helped, and further it is going to be evolving with the new software, with the agile technology. So I think the things which I see and foresee is far better and superior. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So I think you touched upon 2 interesting points. Of course, in terms of the execution, the thought process and the execution that has been done. But you also mentioned one of the interesting thing, which is in terms of the cost perspective, right? I mean, the commercial angle to it. So quite obvious. I think I'm going to go to Anant now, and I'm going to make it a little different, a little twist to the question. Anant, so the digital transformation has to be done, right? So a quarter of people say that it's a investment for future, but at the same time, a commercial hat would also look forward that how long is that future, and what are the immediate dividends, and what are the long-term benefits, right? And I'm sure there is a lot of thought process that goes into this, right? So how does the commercial units and how organizations and the commercial units in the organizations look towards this transformation?
Yeah, I think great question, Sudeep. First of all, I have a few scores to settle with you for inviting me with to be part of this panel discussion where such senior people are sitting, and let me tell you, I am part of this panel discussion to express what kind of benefits that I am experiencing because of all the hard work that you gentlemen have put, my fellow panelists. So let me begin with that statement. Sudeep, I'll meet you after this. Sure. But with respect to this question, I think organizations look to create looking to create sustainable competitive edge, right, in the market, always weave strategy around the customer, and customer centricity drives every piece of strategy in a winning firm. And employee centricity is the cornerstone on which customer centricity is built. You can't have disgruntled employees delivering customer delight at all. I mean, throwing around a few bean bags and coffee machines here and there, I mean, those days are gone, and we all have seen through those tactics, and you and I know how it works. So employee centricity is primarily driven by those organizations today who are creating a performance culture in their organization, and who are creating this environment where people feel recognized for the effort that they are putting in and what the company is performing, how their effort is linked to the company's growth. And this can't be done without digitization. Coming to your question as to the commercial aspect, I will just come to it. Just give me a second. And I think I think taking off from Tusharji and Sanjayji, we all recall those days when if there were training sessions, we had to be sent off into classrooms and on a periodic basis. And we all know how it has turned out today. Organizations such as TVS, Toyotas, and the major auto companies of the world cannot imagine training sessions without augmented reality or all those kind of technologies for assembly level training, I'm saying. Nor can we imagine, like Sanjayji mentioned, entering the shop floor without having your face screened through a facial recognition system. And these were not technologies. I mean, not too long ago, we saw them in movies, frankly, if you don't get me wrong. And our equipment
specific Hollywood movies.
Yeah. And our equipment maintenance today sitting in Hosur, is initial debugging is done by somebody sitting in Germany, and simply amazing what Internet of Things can do for us. Digitization is everywhere. As cliched as it may sound, we are now getting used to conversational AI to help with smaller inquiries and geofencing based attendance system. And I think Sudeep and I, when we got into this engagement of hiring a few people for my department or the field staff on the ground, I think that was my first exposure to having the entire onboarding system to be digitized. And the offer letters were given out in a soft format in a push of an email. And that's amazing progress that we have made from what we used to get printed out, offer letters earlier. Archaic appraisal processes are all which were all paper based. Today, you receive it on an email notification, and there's an adrenaline rush to open up that email, and then your revision statement is there.
Right.
I mean, the rate of change of technology is breathtaking in HR, and what began in 1930s as a journey or as an administrative process, today HR has become a strategic business partner for the CEO, and I think it's now exploring newer frontiers in probably even integrating with the external world. It's more of interacting with how the company is viewed in the society. I think digital transformation enables this progression, has enabled this progression from like what Tusharji mentioned, from transactional to the strategic plane, what we are seeing. And sorry to take a parallel with the COVID wave right now. I hope there are no more waves to deal with, but artificial intelligence as such has seen 4 waves already. 2010 was the first real wave where the search-based ads, e-commerce, all of that has sprung up, and Amazon, Facebook, and Googles of the world have sprung up. 2014, I think enough data was being created, and then we had, business AI sweeping the fintech companies up, and we had logistics and back offices being transformed. 2016, that's when speech recognition, became a tremendous technology, and I'm really surprised that my 3-year-old is having better conversations with Google Home than me when I'm working. So 4th wave actually came up with, in a good old pre-COVID days of IoT, autonomous vehicles, and robotics and smart warehouses. What is the 5th wave going to be? I think I will speak about it later. But what technology has done to our lives today, and any commercially savvy manager would not ignore and look at balancing a few pennies here and there to evaluate whether investment in digital infrastructure is required or not. I think it'd be a very naive decision to go against it. For example, my seniors, even as we speak, are frowning upon every manual process that is there in the company. If those conversations are not happening in your organization, I think the ship will begin to sink. And these are times we have to act fast. Investment will pay back. I think there is no question about it. It's only about having the conviction. Otherwise, you will be left behind in such a way that you will not be able to catch up.
Great, Anant. So I think the message is clear from what you said. A lot of companies who were there probably 20 years back, today they are no more. So if you want to beat the test of time and be in business, then you have to have the digital transformation. You have to think differently and implement them and look at it from the investment perspective. So I'll move to you, Mr. Kishore. Now the thing is, while it is having said and done that digital transformation is to be done and etc. And you are a country head, so of course, I think the most interesting challenge for you is to keep thinking what next to implement and what next to implement, right? So I think a large part of the HR fraternity would like to learn from your experience that what is the homework that, and how this new to implement and what new to think about with respect to technology in HR. How do you manage that? How do you balance that? And how do you communicate that? Is something if you can share with us.
Yeah, Sudeep, thank you so much, and thanks to my fellow colleague. They have already shared their views.
Sure.
However, as you say, I mean, it's absolutely important to understand, okay, the processes. Okay, when I say about, when I talk about initial stage, it was a transactional, then it was the strategic, and now it is forecasting the things. Okay, now day in, day out, as we say, I mean, business is growing like anything. I'm talking about not only HR perspective, but as being, I am, senior leadership member. Okay, we as a board, we have to think about on daily basis. Okay, in last month we reviewed, for example, Anant is aware because in month of May we had a budget for we call it 4+8. So within 1 month, this because of second pandemic wave, the budget has completely collapsed. Okay, it was come down to 30%. And see, at one point, as we are all corporate people and we have given certain commitment to the Italy, when they were really asking us why, I mean, this is a high difference. Because in January, you said, I mean, budget, okay, 0 + 12 is so much, okay, you can say like 100 million. And now you are talking in next 3 months, you are talking about, 140% more. And again, because of second pandemic wave, I mean, this all dealers are closed, all the like, OEMs like Honda, Maruti, even TVS, I mean, they're kind of, RE, Royal Enfield, they have, kind of closed down their operation. 2-3 impacted, reasons. One is that, of course, this pandemic and closed down and lockdown. So all dealers were closed, so they had to stop it. And in Chennai recently, I could see, Anant, I was reading this, thanks to the technology, you can say. In a minute, I could recognize that there was some incidents in, I think, in Renault. Some worker, went on saying that we are not essential commodity, we are not exporting also. Why you are asking? I think Anant is aware. And I was definitely exploring in next 2 days, then come down to Hyundai, and Hyundai staff people went on strike. It is not a white collar, blue collar, a white collar I'm talking about. And then I was very much visualizing that it will come to, Royal Enfield as well. So this is a group of people, then, Daimler, this Royal Enfield, and then Hyundai. This, immediately within 2 days, I mean, there was a news that they followed by the, this IR issues. So, this is what I mean, how the business situation is changing. And obviously then we have one plant in Joharagadam. So I had to stop. I mean, still, I mean, today the plant is, we are not running. Rather, we are running at 50%. Okay. So even in spite of having good budget, in spite of OEMs have good, market, there's a huge demand. I mean, Anand is aware. I mean, the people are all the products, be it two-wheeler, four-wheeler, they are waiting for a minimum 4 months. And people desperately wanted these products. However, for some or other reason, okay, the situation is not in a volatile situation, sometimes favoring, sometimes not favoring. So it is very difficult to, it's very important to, use our IA and then keep an eye on the market and keep thinking on future prospect, how the forecast is going to be there. And I'm sure in August, again, we will back, and in the same situation where we are in last month. So I'm sure, I mean, they'll, after 1 month, this lockdown will, come down, open, and then people will, on the market. And considering the future, 3 months as a festival season, again, we will be again in big soup, because you have to be. So resilience is very, very important. So it's very important to keep your people, with us. Okay, it's very important to keep your productivity or capacity in high range. So already, I mean, though, I mean, we as on today, we are, low at demand, customer demand. However, we are already planning for one more extension plant in Wargadam. I mean, Wargadam and in Pune, we already got one place. So you'll have to be, be ready for future. You cannot say, I mean, don't have any excuse to be given to the market and customers and, to the business. Sure. So this is what, I mean, we have to, as you said, I mean, you and me, how do you foresee? But because of this, all technology, we can come to know, we can use our, financial data, big data, and we can visualize, I mean, where the market will go. And we can then accordingly plan, not 100%, maybe up to 75%, 80%, we are correct. I mean, we can do the planning and forecasting for our business.
Sure. Okay. So what you are trying to say is, I think largely digital platform is correct. It's about how to use. It can be disruptive to the I think how the people react to it, and it is also how you can communicate with a larger set of people in what traditionally used to be very different and how it is. And the second thing what we are talking about is utilization, digital data, and of course the learnings that we have had from the first wave or whatever we had from last 1 year, in order to forecast that how things are going to be, and considering that pandemic is going to be there for some more time, assuming that how can still business be kind of done, and what element of resilience that needs to be there. Fantastic. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next question, which is more from the execution perspective. So what I want to understand is, what is your view of digital HR of the future, right? So, okay, we are at a place where we have done it, but what's the digital HR of the future? Where do you see the biggest gap in tech adoption in the HR life cycle, right? So we are going to touch upon the HR life cycle in terms of hiring, onboarding, payroll management, learning and development. So where do you see the biggest gap in tech adoption in HR cycle? And what is your view of digital HR of the future? So I'm going to come to you, Sanjay. You mentioned about a large workforce that is there. So how do you see, and where do you see the challenges as far as tech adoption in hiring, onboarding, documentation, payroll management, compliance, and of course, learning and development?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I want to bucket the technology into 3 major parts. The engine. The second is employee experience, engagement, and learning. The third thing is the employee well-being. I think a lot which has happened, and especially since the last 1 year, we can tell you about our own example. We're not, many of us, sure about the learning on the digital platform. since we are a hardcore brick mortar company, and all the training, all the communication were happening in person. So we quickly learned that how do we really get onto a virtual platform. And 22nd March onwards, we started organizing various programs through the digital platforms. We trained our employees, our associates, that what are the etiquettes of the digital platform. Second, we created trainers so that they are far better in terms of virtual led training, how they can organize. Most of the things since earlier days, pre-COVID, they were all hard copy. Now, increment letters are given to employees through WhatsApp. The complete the life cycle has come to digital. Now, the challenge which is going to happen, the gap which I see in future is still the employee experiences. And every employee will have a different kind of a mindset. Some may be actively engaged, some people may be disengaged, some are in between. So how do you really organize? And the technology may not even have the right answers at this moment. Though there's a lot which is being evolved, which is talked about, the various software and the tools which can predict the employees' mindset in terms of their happiness, whether they are engaged, how much time they are investing on the social media. All that is said and done, still the creativity, the employee experiences, the emotions will not be there available on the digital transformation. That's what I personally feel. And it has to be the balance of both the digital platform, the technology, which whatever we devise every day, plus the human angle. We are from human resources, so we understand the humans, the workmen, the staff, the executives far better in terms of what is that they think and how are they remain more engaged. I think that balance will have to still build. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So, Mr. Tushar, I would come to you. I think we all know it's a huge group, right? Adani, it's a huge group. And again, into multiple businesses, right? Into multiple businesses. Now, as far as the adoption is concerned, right? It's also to do, of course. So is it that adoption is a big challenge or a gap with respect to the larger set of employees? Or is it more to do with how seamlessly you think about how easy you make the adoption? Where is it that lies the important?
I think, Sudeep, wherever the reason for what change you are doing is clear and very much aligned to the business needs, adoption is rarely a challenge. Where you're doing it because somewhere you got excited with some use case and you want to show it, it fails. Take my own example. Our group, multiple places, huge set of growth. So obviously talent acquisition is a critical thing. So anything I do to make sure the digital investments in talent acquisition, the adoption is likely to be high. Rather it is in terms of CV mining or predicting the performance of the guy or ensuring candidate excellent experience, leveraging social media. It's business critical. Now take another example. You are getting into new businesses where you know that you have to expand, and by definition in India, you have a skill shortage. There I need not to tell my chief operating officer, please invest in learning. He's going to come and say, look, where are my 20 more guys because I have 10 more plants to run or 20 more airports to run. Where are those guys?
Sure.
So when the need comes from the business, adoption is easier. Contrary to me going there and saying, look, you do this, why are you not filling up your PMS? He tells me, you ask me PMS once in a year. I want to do it every quarter. You want it only manager to do it. I want him to do it with everybody because not single guy rates it. And I want anytime, anywhere. I'll give you an example. We launched last year anytime, anywhere feedback by anyone. It's a fantastic thing. So you don't have to worry. At one stage, we are talking about agile teams, purpose-driven teams. At the same time, you are saying PMS will be only done once in a week by manager. See the disconnect?
Absolutely.
So you need to actually, the adoption always is a symptom. The cause is lack of clarity of why you are changing. I agree with Anand, which is saying customer first. In this case, you know what customer wants, which is making sure that the business is responsive to the world of uncertainty, which Kishore talked about. And if your investments are helping him deliver those, fantastic. So take another example. Maybe it is one of the things I wanted to touch earlier also. How you talk digital. So you can talk digital in terms of smart technologies, this and that, or you talk digital as the core 3 key capabilities it bring to you.
Okay.
24/7 connectivity, all types of communication, people to people, people to things to things, and a huge computational power.
Sure.
So if you look at any scenario, look at the scenario of field force productivity, look at the scenario of people working from home, you know what their expectations are. And do you think that using these 3 creatively, 24/7 connectivity, communication of all types, as well as computation power, can I use the collective power of digital and cobble a solution which enhances the wellness, productivity, as well as engagement levels of my workforce, which is whether remotely working on a field or working at home with his families around. So to me, fundamentally, when we look at the digital, it starts with getting the problem statement right. It starts with having a right opportunity, and that opportunity will always come if we engage with the business partners and don't do it on our own and don't do it driven by use cases.
Okay. Okay, great. So I think, of course, first is the clarity. Why are we doing that? I think you're rightly said, if that aspect, if that chapter is clear, adoption is going to be high, because people who are likely to adopt it see value in that. So communication clarity is very important. And then I think the next thing that you emphasize, one is to do it collectively instead of trying to impose, like one of the department trying to impose it. It's more of collective things, right? Okay, great. So Anant, I'll again come back to you. All this planning is done with a thought process of more or more people adopting it, right? Because the more the adoption, faster the adoption, of course, the quicker is the ROI from that perspective, right? So as a commercial person, how important is the adoption aspect, and what do you think should be done in order to eradicate these gaps of adoption, right?
Yes.
We would like to hear from you.
I think again,
you say, sorry to interrupt you. I think many thanks to Karthik Balasubramaniam. He is in fact joined from Melbourne. And he was very interested. I think he's put it also. He's wished us good evening. It's evening there, and great to have him join for this webinar from Melbourne. Thanks, Karthik. Yeah, Anant, please.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think having Tusharji's point was, an excellent point. So defining the North Star for your organization and aligning all digitization towards that North Star becomes imperative. Otherwise, what you will have is that you will have pockets of excellence of digital. So somebody can develop an app and flaunt it, and he gets all the limelight for that minute, and then and it dies down a natural death. Digital cannot be by accident. Digital is a strategy and needs design. So I think it wouldn't be out of place to mention here that Forbes magazine had reported a couple of years back that $900 million was wasted by companies in pursuing disconnected and misaligned digitization. Those interested in pursuing digitization in a systematic manner should first start again, going back to Tusharji's point of what exactly drives business. And if the need comes from business, then definitely that will be adopted, and then it becomes the business responsibility to drive adoption. But there's one framework which really appealed to me, which was developed by the Project Management Institute in association with a Stanford professor, the Bright Line Transformation Compass. The Bright Line Transformation Compass talks about, again, defining the objective and the framework within which the digital transformation needs to be carried on. And this it finally enables the corporate to look at the real purpose behind their existence and what transformation is actually crafted for the senior leadership to achieve that. See, throwing in, like Tusharji mentioned, it sounds very sexy to throw in some terms like deep tech, robotics and AI and all of that. Will it finally result in the customer paying you an extra buck for the product? I think that question is the fundamental question that leadership face today. Why, by digitizing processes mindlessly, will my customer pay me additionally? Will my, at least a few years down the line, will the organization be in a better place to service its customers? I keep going back to the customer point because that's what will drive meaningful digitization.
Sure. Absolutely. Great. So I think we'll move to the next question. And Kishorji, I'm going to come to you. Analytics, right? I think you have been talking about it, and you have been using that a lot in the evolution of your organization, and analytics elsewhere in the country where you have your operations, and analytics with respect to the Indian perspective both become important, right? Yes. My question to you is that technology is helping analytics as well. So help us understand the role of analytics in digital HR. How does analytics help in digital HR?
Yeah. Okay. I think I will go back to again, same forecasting and planning. So what analytics, gives us the experiences. I mean, what has happened last year? Okay. What will be, what will be happen, forthcoming days, and how, you can, take a decision for, considering the past data, current situation, and you can use, past data and then take up decisions for business decisions for forthcoming days. So if you talk about analyticals, we always, compare, okay, what is the market? So we have 3-4 informations and data. So what is a market situation? Okay, as on today, this compared to current year to last year. And then we consider, okay, our experiences for last 2-3 months, how it is gone. And then what is the current market situation? So considering, this data gives us information as to how well you can plan your business. Like, normally we have, otherwise, as I said to you, at the beginning we had different plans, in between we had different plans, and current situation we are having a different situation. And in next 2 months, we will have a very, very different situation. So, considering this, this, how we can come up, we are confident enough to say that in next 2 months, our situation is going to be a change completely, and we'll come back to on a regular business plan. So why this is so? Because of analytical situation and data which we have in past, current, and this year, information. So with this, I think we can take a call. However, in HR, it is very, very important. As we said, we were planning for, supposing, 140% capacity wise, we were planned for manpower. However, we have an analytical system, HRI system, where I put it there. So if you consider the, what we have, what we processes we have improvised this year, and if you consider this, then we were not supposed to deploy 40% manpower more. We could, then ultimately, we could only 15% recruitment, we did it. And for your information, for last 4 months, we are running at, compared to last year, 30% more. Maybe exceptional for this May, second half, we could come down because it's a very obvious reason. However, again, from July or August onward, I am for sure with the same amount of manpower, we will give a business results of 130% more. So adding 15% manpower, we will for sure, we will give a 30% more results. This is what will happen because of the analytical situation. How many people will go, on COVID absenteeism, how many people will be there, how many people will be, working from various locations. So, and how we can use our people, okay? Because some people, as I showed you, there are 3 different locations, Delhi, Pune, and Chennai.
Sure.
So right now, Chennai people I am using for, sub-assembly systems. There is no demand, but I am using them. The operation which was supposed to be carried out in Pune, now it has been done in Chennai.
Sure.
Of course, transportation cost, we are bearing it. But see, that is how, this data I will give how many people are ideal. For example, I need only 50% people, 50% people I am available. How many are skilled? Which machines should be ideal? And those machines should be for which product line? So we have a planning well done. And then accordingly, I am using that 50% manpower and plant and machinery for some other businesses.
Sure.
So this could happen only because of the analytical situation, and this HR analytical, business analytical module is been providing us information on tips. Okay, within 1 day we could decide which product line is to be run in Chennai and stop here in Pune. So this is how
Great.
Maybe I'm not able to explain you, but this data is giving an information to use our resources.
Sure.
Use our resources and time also, because time is very important for us. However, Pune plant is very engaged into the different activities then. So that is what this data has been, our information has been only could happen through the digitalization system.
Sure.
And as I said, our processes are completely online. Even I can see in my PC and see that which machine is producing at what rate.
Sure.
So one can very easily understand it. Okay.
Sure. Absolutely. I think you touched upon very important points. Trends, I think again you said planning and forecast. So on one side you study the trends, and then of course when you realize that the trends does not hold anything great because of the disruptions that has happened, or disruptions, the changes that has happened between 2 months, 2 days, 2 weeks, and etc. That also availability. Now that we have seen those disruptions, how can you kind of plan, and how can you and of course allocate multiple set of people into doing things, right? Absolutely. Now, thing is that we also have in our participant section, and we also have a lot of HR folks who are, of course, half of your experience, that kind of thing, and definitely in those roles where they are being asked to identify the technology, which technology would be the apt one for their organization. And there is a struggle, of course, because there's what is happening is, I think there are too many tools which are there, and understanding the need of the organization and identifying the right tool and technology is very important. So what is the message that I think all of you would like to give it to them, when to all those friends who are supposed to identify the right technology for their organization? Sanjay, I would like to go to you here.
Yeah, it's very difficult, because it talks about the demography, the investment, geographical spread of that particular organization, also the employee age, how are the organizations set up.
Mm-hmm.
They are far young, probably they can always go for the new agile technology.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, there are various options which are available, which are cost effective, and the employees can get better experience. But it is essential to have your HRIS or your HR system, which is linked with your entire ERP, your FICO or other modules, so that it is completely integrated, and we avoid any kind of duplication, because nobody would like to do a job which is mundane and does not add value.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's a quick answer from my side.
Sure. Great. Tusharji, I would like to come to you. There's a lot of buzzword with digital transformation, right? And we have a lot of friends who are in colleges or universities and would be stepping out from the colleges and universities for jobs and etc. While there is a course which is, of course, transformed, they are studying. What is that they should look for? What kind of skills so as to get jobs in companies like each one of you represent and otherwise? What is the preparation you think they should do?
In fact, that reminds me, last week I was talking to our interns from various IIMs that we take, and the same question was asked there as well. I think it's a combination of both the things, the approach as well as the knowledge part, right? I think first important thing is for them to have a very genuine curiosity.
Okay.
And when I say genuine curiosity, I keep saying deep is the new smart.
Deep is the new smart. Okay.
Please understand that that's very important. Do not, even if you want to learn anything, whether it's blockchain or whether it's IoT, any of it, please learn sufficiently enough to be able to understand its applicability and understand its constraints. Things like digital and things like transformation are huge concepts in themselves. Understand at the concept level and understand at the application level, whatever portion of it that you need.
Sure.
Second is, if you are serious about anything like that, please do look into statistics. Sure. If you don't know what it means to be regression to the mean, or didn't know the difference between R value and P value, then you try to understand one thing. Even if you use any kind of a software to churn out your compensation format and outcomes, you as an HR professional have to go and talk to as a business partner and explain it to the HOD. You can't say, I am bringing this because this tool gave me this answer and hence you accept this answer. So to do that, you need to appreciate what has gone inside the black box to be able to give that sense of confidence, transparency, fairness to your consumer of your services. Sure. So from the skill perspective, be curious, be deep in whatever you have. I really like that the current people are extremely fortunate because they don't have to rely only on books. They have YouTube videos, they have communities, they have webinars like this. So resources are immense. But please understand, you should know where to focus and cut out the noise.
Sure.
Be curious and learn the fundamentals of what drives this technology and what drives this statistics, because these are the two things which we look at. Just parroting some use cases here and there without disjointed advantage of it, linking why, what anything has done and how it added to the value from the business perspective is something when we go into and look into. We don't get excited by saying, I know this vendor did this and this. We want to know, do you know why a company decided to take this technology? What were the aspirations behind it? What were the choices behind it? How did it add value to business? And finally, did it work out as planned?
Sure.
Because if somebody says, we got 100% success in digital transformation first time itself, then obviously means there is something more to it.
Absolutely.
So that is what limited advice I have to my young colleagues on this, and clearly I wish them a great journey ahead.
Sure. So
I just want to add a quick point. What Tusharji has just mentioned.
Sure, Sanjay,
the way he has beautifully explained, I just want to add on, and it would be good for all the audience. One should see the 6 P's. In fact, that's the Monday motivation which I wrote yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that starts with the purpose. What is the why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. Then the second P is process. Mm-hmm. And the process talks about everything, the digital, the end process. Then the third thing is the process owner, who's doing it, why is he doing it? Mm-hmm. The fourth P is the payments, that is funds, the cost, the budget you have. And Anant will definitely agree with this point. Is the periodical review, that PDCS cycle, the periodical review is must. And the last P in this is the payout. In terms of the financial gains and also in terms of people or whatever we have thought the purpose in the beginning, whether that has been filled or not. Okay. Sure. Just what Tusharji has said. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to pick up one of the question which has been put across by the participant. He wants to know about the tech measures are planned. What are the technological measures that are planned towards handling psychological well-being of workforce amidst the pandemic, lockdown, and etc. What has organizations done in terms of doing certain element of work towards that? Yes, Anant.
Yeah, I think I'll take that because personally being a beneficiary, thanks to TVS Motors initiative, and I'm sure many organizations would have taken up such initiatives.
Mhm.
The TVS Motor has thrown open one online counseling portal, free of cost access to all our employees
Mhm.
to seek support. And frankly, Sudeep, mental health was profanity. I mean, few years back, and to call out the elephant in the room and provide access to all our employees and facilitating them to seek out help
Mhm.
when they need it in a very private way without actually making much noise about it. I
Mhm.
think that's I mean, the pandemic has really given rise to a lot of challenges, and mental
Right.
health being topmost among those challenges which have been brought. And then corporates are rising to the occasion. I'm sure many of the companies are taking similar measures.
Sure. Okay, so comes to a very interesting phase in this webinar. I think we call it the rapid fire. I was talking about it. So I'm going to put the questions, and it's a short answer that I think you would expect. It's nice fun. So the question is, do you think the average wages will kind of go down? What do you think? The question to you, Sanjay.
So certainly not, because the cost of living has gone up, the responsibilities has gone up. So the answer is no.
No, answer is no. Kishore?
Sure, I mean, it will not come, down. Okay, it will never come down, rather, because we, as you know, though I know, I mean, why you are asking, because the CPI is coming down. Okay, maybe, I mean, because the pandemic and all, we don't see, I mean, GDP is increasing. However, when it comes to minimum wages, it will definitely not come down for sure, because it is a basic element of society to
Sure.
grow.
So your
And
answer is also no.
yes, of course, it's no.
Okay, great. So my next question, of course, is with respect. I think I'll go to Tushar. Do you think there will be lesser jobs in the country in the next 12 months, or there will be more of new jobs in the next 12 months?
I think jobs which are core to business will continue to stay. The new opportunities that are there will emerge, and they need not come in the formal sector, but the jobs work at hand is going to increase, not reduce.
Okay, great. So my next question is to you, Anand. Do you see a certain percentage of jobs permanently becoming work from home?
Absolutely. I think there is no two ways about it, especially the accounting functions, the IT functions. I think they need not see office in a hurry.
Okay.
Sudeep, if I need to just add to this, if you don't mind. This is
Please go ahead, sir.
This is very interesting input that I got from a Chicago study, which saying that a lot of right now, a lot of enthusiasm about the fact that output of people working from home has increased. But if you scratch the surface, what it's saying is the effort spent by people working from home have increased by 20% in terms of hours, and productivity has gone down by 12%. So while the net effect may be 8% jump, but it's not sustainable.
Not sustainable.
Because so those who are adopting work from home as a part of this strategy needs to not take guaranteed extended working hours from home once the leisure sector opens up, and have to upfront look at how to make sure that the dip in productivity is managed.
Sure. Great. So my next question, again, a rapid fire, is, do you see more organizations moving to the flexible staffing model? And is pandemic and the second wave of pandemic the right cause for it otherwise, wherein it will see an incremental element of contractual jobs? Sanjay, the question to you.
Yeah, of course. In fact, the flexi model has been there for time, and people talk about the gig workers. So it's going to be there. More and more skill sets are required. The new age technology, the new age managers would be required. People also would be happy to work for part-time flexi hours. So that model will be there, but at the same time, the hybrid model will also work. So some will be definitely be there on the permanent rules, and some will be, of course, on part-time basis.
Sure, sure. Great. So now my next question to you, Kishorji, is while what Sanjay said, right? The fraternity which is still in again colleges or probably yet to get into job, should they perceive, how should they prepare themselves for an opportunity, irrespective whether it is contract or permanent or whatsoever? What should be the what should be their view towards that? What should be their strategy and kind of thing?
This is very interesting question and very important, very close to my heart as well.
Sure.
As Tushar would be aware, when we really wanted a person, okay, to be very, very frank, we don't get a talent in market. Okay. Forget about technology. Technology, I'm not talking. I'm talking a general, person or a general candidate or general employee I'm look for. I'm not getting it. Forget about technology, so it's very far away. So because every organization has a different technology, and that is not being taught in the academia. So forget about that. But the kind of person, we are looking for as an employee, the candidate. I mean, there's a definitely mismatch, and the talent what we are expecting is not getting. So my question is to you is that that industry academia has to be work lot in terms of getting inculcating the kind of elements as a human being, as an organization, as a corporate. They are far away. They are being taught what in the text or what taught in the classroom is totally different, and what is an exact scenario and the situation on field or on offices in work is totally different. So they have to be we want to look for talent which is ready for the workplace ready. So in workplace, it means that they should know what is the interrelations, how they should be aligned with the organization processes, policies. They are far away, to be very frank. Technology is far away, which I will not speak. But in terms of having a talent workplace ready is again difficult. So we are again fighting for that.
Sure.
We are searching for such people.
Okay, great.
Especially when you talk about every organization has their own excellence way, and they have own process and policy. It's very difficult to get setup guy, you can say. So
sure.
To answer to your question is that so this for sure, and academia has to work very closely. A candidate has to understand what kind of organization is. So there are some elements which maybe as a corporate also should work upon this. But yes, they have to be changed. And they have to go a long way in terms of understanding culture, work culture.
Sure. So great. I think fantastic. We are towards the end. I think it's 12 o'clock. Thanks to have you all. But before we end, I think we all would like to get some interesting insights and thoughts about demystifying the digital transformation. We are all practitioners of it. So over to you, Mr. Tushar, few lines of your experience while you kind of wrote the book. And I'm sure those are hands-on experience which propelled you to kind of write the book. So I think please go ahead and please do share with those interesting things with us.
Yeah, Sudeep, thank you for this. Actually, the provocation to write this book was to learn something about it.
Okay.
Because in my current role, we are a very strong proponent of technology, and we were looking at it as a Adani Group. We are looking at a lot of usage of technology across all businesses and of services. So the idea was, we need to study across the world what all others are doing. What are the mistakes people are making? What are the new set of stakeholders coming up? You will have every day some product vendor telling something else, some research of professor telling you something else. So you realize that if you're not clear about what you want to do, you will be driven in all directions. And that's when I and my partner were the group CIO. So it's very important to have these two together when you talk something digital. We looked at lots of people. We spoke to a lot of people around to see what are it that they are feeling challenged. Because what was happening was what the product guys were telling us in terms of availability of functionality and what their experiences were at lot. So we found out that a lot of underestimation of the complexity that gets into deriving value out of digital. And also the fact that digital itself was, having a no unified view of a definition. Everybody says somebody would put even a SAP implementation as a digital. Somebody else will say, no, that is something else. So a lot of emerging views and chaos around this whole idea of digital transformation. We thought, let's write something which is directed entirely towards our colleagues, our practitioners, who are a bunch of not necessarily IT specialists, but HR professionals, the CEOs, who are actually the recipient of this, the consumer of something called digital transformation. And just to quickly tell you one or two things which I want to mention here. In my experience and our collective wisdom, there are few things we underestimate, which become a big impediment in our digital transformation. First underestimation is the power of existing practices. It's very difficult to change them. You need to be very clear and convinced about it. Otherwise, it will make you fail. Second is something which mentioned very well by Sanjay in terms of power of interfaces. Any technology sits into your existing interfaces and existing ecosystem. All value leakage because data or document will not transfer from one system to another system. And the third, which is extremely important, and Anand will agree to it, is aligning the personal interest of all stakeholders towards a common goal. You need any digital transformation, you will have a product vendor, you will have a system implementation partners, you will have a data management person, you will have an IT person, you will have an HR person, you will have a business person, you will have a manager. All of them will have an entirely different set of KRAs and KPIs and are sitting in that room with different focus. Unless you have a strong incentive system to tie all of them together, if you are successful, everybody will say, great. If you are not, then you will see all suddenly finger pointing coming and saying, I did my part.
Absolutely.
So these three quick, lessons we learned from it. It was a very enriching experience. And I think post-COVID, I think lessons are still relevant, but the ease of adoption has happened because we are all today in the most adaptable form because we know every day something surprising will come up from our WhatsApp.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my view.
Okay, so fantastic. I think it has been a wonderful discussion. Each one of you had shared your experiences. We learned about, I think, the clarity why the digital transformation is required. We learned from the commercial aspects in terms of the fact that it needs to be looked at investments. However, periodical checks needs to be done in order to check. I think the 6 Ps, what Sanjay spoke about. We also learned about, planning, which is there, and forecasting. I think clearly it came out. How much more business in how many days, right? I think that's the buzzword which is happening. Or if business is not doing good, what are the different means and ways you can revive it, because you are there in the chair. So it's your responsibility to bring together digital interventions and all that is possible and required, considering pandemic is going to be there for some time, right? So I think we touched upon very interesting points. We have answered to a lot of questions which had come from our participants as well. So thanks to all of you for accepting to be the panelist of this, this webinar. And we look forward to host you again in the near future, and wish you on behalf of Team Lee's a great day ahead and stay safe.